Now, moving on, presidential hopeful Mukhisa Kituyi is optimistic of a possible pact with the Orange Democratic Party as the 2022 campaign heats up. Kituyi has said that he will create 10 million jobs once elected. I had a sit down with Kituyi, and my first question to him was why he has been so silent. Take a look.
I've been around the country, like I've mentioned some other conversations recently.
Yes.
Because I'd been out of the country for so long, I didn't think it was right for me to come and just jump into public rallies. So what I've done is that I do, in many parts of the country, focus group meetings in constituencies. This way I've covered every constituency in Kwale, for example, every constituency in Mombasa County, half of the constituencies in Kilifi, about 2 counties in North Rift, 2 of the counties in Western, basically trying to sit down with people and say, introduce myself, who I am, what I stand for, start establishing, influencers, mobilizers on the ground. But while this has been going on, there are 2 other things that have also slowed down my rollout of the public phase of my campaign. Of course, first was the COVID restrictions, which are now out of the way, and that has been helpful. But another, I don't believe that a Lone Ranger campaign at this time, when coming so late into the campaign, is a viable way to really be a serious contender for power. So I have been consulting people in different coalitions, people who are independent the teams, and some of those conversations are ongoing. For example, there was a moment when we are having very serious discussions with Muungano Party of Professor Kivutha Kibwana and the people of my party information, whether we should, instead of having a coalition, bond and build a rapprochement for us to launch as one party.
I have seen already Kivutha Kibwana has crossed borders and he has gone to ODM. He'll be supporting Raila Odinga.
He has not gone to ODM. He has hosted Raila's meeting in Wote to say that of the coalitions that are emerging, he aligns with that side as opposed to the side of Ruto. To my understanding, that is different from joining ODM. The last time I spoke to him, which was yesterday, he didn't give me the impression that he was at any one moment considering joining ODM.
At any point, are you going to join either the UDA camp or the ODM camp?
There is absolutely no chance that I'll join UDA because our policy positions, our history are totally opposite. So there is no such a possibility. I am talking to a lot of the leaders in Raila-led initiative, but I'm not talking to them about me joining them, about what are complementarities we can bring in winning credible leadership. I have to grow my own mobilizing capacity before I'm relevant to any coalition. I can't just come one person and I say I'm joining a coalition. I'm seeing areas where there is no team that has worked, I think, sufficiently in building that anti-ODA constituency. And if I can make headway in that kind of area, then I can say, okay, this is something I can leverage to join other teams. But there's also other teams that we discuss our own things, like money leaders. I mean, like my discussions with Mother Karua over the years, that how can we make sure that even before talking about joining other coalitions, a core agenda of national renewal is embraced by us and by any partners that may potentially want to talk with us. So these are internal conversations that are not easy to answer by just saying, are you joining Raila or Ruto?
My understanding, and from what you are saying,
yes.
Am I seeing signs that you're throwing away your presidential ambition?
No. I am saying a solo presidential ambition cannot go very far. So you have to start looking at what are the levers that can give life, can give new oxygen to the momentum that you want to build.
Let's go to Western politics. Yeah. And right now, Musalia Mudavadi is leading in Western Bloc. You come from Western region. Do you think, what are you going to bring on table in case you're going to go to any coalition?
The number of different things. First of all, to my campaign, I believe that youth in Western and across many areas of Kenya have not adequately been mobilized because nobody has talked to the concrete agenda of youth, a tangible agenda on mobilizing new sustainable livelihoods. That constituency, I want to maximize mobilizing it. That constituency is particularly important to me. And I have been building networks with a lot of different players from the youth community, people like Siasa players. We are engaging and going forward over the next few weeks. I'm having a blend of physical and virtual meetings with networks of youth across the country. So that cuts across the country, not just in Western Kenya. Yeah.
There were sentiments that you might be joining the Mutunga-led coalition. He's bringing on several parties together.
I didn't know that Mutunga is leading any political coalition, and I don't even think that he's playing any active political role. So if there were such rumors, I can tell you, Mutunga is my friend. I've met him a couple of times, but I'm not joining any coalition that is led by William Mutunga.
Let's look at your chances of winning the presidency. Right now, we are looking at UDA that has been on the ground for quite a while, and they are leading in that particular area. We are looking at ODM that has been doing very well. Musalia Mudavadi-led OKA team is doing very well. Where do you place yourself?
Okay, first of all, UDA has not been on the ground very long. Ruto has been, but not UDA.
He's leading it anyway.
No, yeah, but the thing is that, okay, Ruto has been on the ground for very long, but not UDA. Oka, I don't know about leading Oka. They put on a nice face like a Quarrel's family, but when visitors come, you put on a smile and look at you all right. I am not starting a presidential campaign by looking for which coalition to join. I'm looking for space and momentum around what Kituyi stands for. I think it's important to separate those two. How can we mobilize the constituents that Kituyi articulates, represents, can engage to the maximum? And then we say democratically internally, if we have to coalesce with other people, what kind of people can we coalesce with? You don't start with the coalition candidates before you build that constituency.
Yes.
Yes.
Away from the coalitions and your ambition, running such a high seat requires that you have resources and quite deep pockets. Are you sure that you're going to run the marathon, because it's a marathon all the way to August 2022?
I don't think there are many people who run presidential campaigns on deep pockets like Ruto does. Usually, resources are necessary, but you don't need to own those resources before you can run for presidency. The thing is, does your candidature give an assurance of people with the resources to invest in you as a vehicle to the future? And it's my expectation that as we build the momentum, as we roll out over the next few weeks, we should be able to test the ground on those questions. We have modest resources we can build the ground campaign on, but we have resource mobilization teams, and we're looking at innovative methods of raising resources. And I believe once we put to the public domain in Kenya what kind of content we have, particularly what does it take to turn around the country, there will be a lot of national patriotic Kenyans who will want to associate with our campaign. And that should be a source of diverse microfinancial support initiatives.
Let's get into the content. Now, you've talked about the content of youth, and let's start there because our station is youth-based. What do you have for the young people in this country? You're saying it's a place that has not been tapped. What do you have as Mukhisa Kituyi when you stand and say, youth, I want you to elect me? What are you going to give them?
The first thing I'll give them is encouragement. They will
tell you they want jobs.
Wait. The first thing they need is encouragement. I was a relatively young person when I was expelled from university because I stood up to be counted against the change of constitution to abolish multipartyism. I have lived my belief and made the sacrifices to make Kenya a better place. Youth cannot afford to be spectators and wait for a draft of policy measures in order to fill the gap of where we are and the investable capital we need to grow the economy at 10% per annum. So on the basis of that, I can promise Kenyans with a straight face, in 5 years, I'll create 10 million sustainable jobs out of spurring new investment. So that's one. Secondly, that you cannot turn around the Kenyan economy without slaying the monster of corruption.
We'll get to corruption. Let's first of all tackle this. Can you explain to us, because President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, the deputy, when they came on board, the same promise they had. We are going to create this number of million jobs every year. That has not happened. Actually, that has declined.
I can explain you why.
Yes. So which model are you going to use to make sure that we get to that?
The word model does not mean the same thing in Kenya politics as it means in economics. But let me just say what I was trying to say. You see, the Kenya government has invested massively in public infrastructure. But there was never done economic feasibility of the kind of infrastructure that was being built. For example, you did not link investment in new roads or railway with active investment by private sector in enhanced production because of more efficient transport. So the de-link between public investment in infrastructure and private sector investment in production has meant that you can count on infrastructure growth without counting on economic growth. So what do? I try to create conditions which say, how can we link the possibilities of new infrastructure with fresh investment that creates jobs? That has not been in the conversation for the last 8 years. And that's a significant phenomenon.
We have seen a government that has borrowed beyond what any person who voted for the government ever thought would get to those levels. 8 trillion debt is what we are looking at. How are you going to manage the next government if you are elected with such a debt? Every day, whatever you get, you have to pay the debt.
Yes,
and you want to grow the economy.
Yes. I know one of the most difficult challenges we face today is an uncontrollable ballooning of public debt. It's not yet 8 trillion. It's more like 7.6, projected by the end of the year to be 7.7 trillion shillings. That's massive. When Kibaki left State House, the total accumulated public debt of Kenya since independence...
800 billion.
No, 1.3 trillion shillings. Over 50 years.
His was 800 billion.
Over 50 years.
Yes.
Over the next 9 years, it has increased by 6.4 trillion shillings. Today, the annual debt service, the amount of money that Kenyan taxpayers must pay to commercial lenders to government this year alone, is equivalent to the total amount of debt that the Uhuru Ruto government inherited 8 years ago. Now, you cannot run away from the responsibility that it is perpetual responsibility of the state. And any person who thinks that they can wipe out debt are cheating. It is not possible. What will be required urgently over the next few years is to retire the most expensive commercial debt. What does that mean? Talk to global friendly lenders to lend you money at low interest rate to buy expensive commercial debt that we have been buying through the Eurobond and so on.
That word, you more years.
What it means, no. What it means is that you lower interest and you spread out the debt to be repaid.
Absolutely.
There is nobody who can cheat you that will come with a magic wand and within the first year, they are paying back this debt. We have a need of resources to turn around the economy.
However, you're saying you want to grow the economy by 10%, but you're saying that we add the length of which we are paying these loans. How are you going to then to make sure that we are growing with the 10%, at the same time, we are paying debts
those are two
for
different ways.
Years? How long are you looking at
those are two different
growing
things.
the economy with 10%?
Let me come again.
Yes.
This year we are going to pay 1.3 trillion shillings
Absolutely.
in debt service.
Absolutely.
My sense is the following.
Yes.
If we go to development partners and agree on governance issues, which are actually fairly acceptable, agreeable things.
Absolutely.
We get money, longer-term money, to buy out expensive short-term money, which means that debt service will decline from 1.3 trillion shillings next year. That saves us some money, which we can put into reorganizing the domestic economy. But I told you...
And grow it by 10%.
To grow 10%, I told you something very different. I said I have to attract 2 trillion shillings from foreign investors. That is not to come from the Kenyan taxpayer. I am looking for two sources of other people's money to deal with problems we have created for ourselves. Development partner money to retire expensive commercial debt, and foreign direct investors money to cover for the gap between our savings and our investment needs. Those are the two different arms I'm talking about.
Thank you. And thank you for that clarification. Now, we know the devil in this country is corruption.
Right.
That the amount of money that we have borrowed largely has gone to people's pockets. How are you going to deal with the corruption that we have seen? It's runaway, it's rampant, it's killing the economy. What are you going to do that will be so different and so immediate that we are going to feel the pain of anyone who is going to engage in corruption will feel the pain of it?
If I become your president, I will tell this nation, number one, we cannot move forward without slaying the monster of corruption. But number two, I know our past has been very dirty and there are too many persons who are compromised in this corruption scandal. I don't want to be stuck in the past with forensic investigation about past corruption.
Are you talking about amnesty?
I am talking
to people who've been corrupt in the country?
About selective amnesty. There is no forgiveness without repentance. So persons who can take advantage of a waiver, for example, you have your illicit resources out of the country, will give you a window of time to bring them back to Kenya, invest them in Kenya. But importantly, what I wanted to mention is the following, that from day one, I'll punish every and any form of corruption very, very painfully.
How?
First of all, working with the judiciary, shorten the grace period between charge and prosecution. Government prosecution office, work, even establish special corruption courts. In some cases, working 24 hours like I've seen in some jurisdictions. Secondly, demonstrate that thieves are thieves. If you are a thief and you are a senior minister, you suffer the way a thief who is an ordinary manager suffers. But particularly, that the state cares about economic thieves of large magnitude as enemies of the state, more than petty thieves who are stealing a loaf of bread and a chicken in the village. The actual practice in the country has been the converse of that. I believe very strongly that whatever fantastic scenarios, scenes you may have and programs you may have, unless you have a leadership that slays the monster of corruption, Kenya is not going anywhere. That is an anchor point of my drive in public leadership.
Mheshimiwa, you've talked about selective amnesty. And I'm concerned about that because this amnesty, how are you going to apply it? Knowing for a fact that most of people we are seeing in politics today, we cannot trace their wealth. How are you going to, some of them it's in billions of shillings. Are these people going to be forgiven under your government?
No, I mean, the thing is, the tax man has the instruments in law to chase unexplained income.
Isn't that what Kenyans want, that their money that was stolen should be taken back and should be gotten back, and no one should be forgiven for stealing because it's economic?
I wish that's what Kenyans want, but my sense, and I've been walking around the country and asking people, that's not what they want.
What do they want?
They want easy money.
What do you mean?
Kenyans are excited to be given free money, regardless of where it comes from. You have seen cases where thieves go to church, give lots of money to the church. The priest starts praying, Mungu mwenyewe ulitujalia baba, ukatuletea mgeni wetu hata tukumtegemea. Yeye akatuletea na akatuchangia. Maulana mfungulie njia zake apate zingine atusaidie zaidi. Churchmen are praying for thieves to have more money. So the idea that Kenyans want criminals punished for stealing is very nice, superficial.
But isn't that a way of...
There are very many Kenyans who don't care where you got the money so long as you share with them. Unfortunately, I wish it was different, but unfortunately, I get the impression that's what the reality in our country. You can understand the outrage that makes countries slaughter their economic thieves. The blue-collar white-collar robbers.
Yes.
But I don't embrace capital punishment. If I did, the first candidates I would think of are child molesters, and political, the thieves, large-scale economic thieves, economic saboteurs. But as I said, I think we have to make the cost of stealing so high and the social stigma of being a thief so high that there will be no path of persons who rise to high office because of disposing of money they cannot possibly have earned legitimately.
In connection with that, Kenyans are complaining of the kind of taxes that we are having today. What are you going to do with the current state of, because every time the government is in need of something, they're raising taxes. What are you going to do? For the
You know,
Mama Mboga who is complaining about it.
No, it's not only Mama Mboga who is complaining about tax. Even the rich are complaining about tax. All categories of society. But I say this well. First of all, I don't think it is sensible to say what Kalonzo Musyoka said the other day, that he will cut taxes by 50%. I mean, you absolutely have no sense of how governments are run if you come and tell us you're going to cut tax by 50%. To me, the best way to reduce the burden of tax is twofold. One, if you reduce the excesses of government expenditure to make government live within its means, then its appetite for additional money through overtaxing the citizens goes away. That is one. Secondly, if you grow a wider base for taxable income, if you grow the economy, diverse the people who have disposable income, people can pay direct and indirect taxes, then the collective tax pot can start growing while the individual payment of tax declines. So to me, it has to be three different related things. One, turning around the economy. Two, living within your means. If you keep your budget within your means, meaning you keep the public budget deficit at maximum 5% of GDP, then the need in the middle of a financial year to increase taxation on petroleum or other basket of consumables will not arise the way it's arising today.
Finally,
but to say I will declare a 50% reduction on tax,
or 6,000, giving Kenyan youth 6,000 shillings, you think that is viable?
well, both, I mean, to me, a 50% reduction in tax, a 6,000 shillings gift to citizens while you are cutting down massively on the budgets of ministries, and 100 billion shillings you throw at youth and you say they'll create 4 million jobs. All three are voodoo economics. They are not based on any sound understanding of what are the challenges. They are not based on any proper prescription of what are the solutions to the problems. So they are sweet-sounding political sound bites, but all three of them do not at all relate to the reality of what the next president is going to do.
This is my final question. The government of President Uhuru Kenyatta, William Samoei Ruto, the deputy president, and now Raila Odinga, who has partly been enjoined.
Yeah.
How would you rate its performance from 1 to 5? How would you say in comparison with the government that you worked for, Mwai Kibaki?
Recently, President Uhuru, in celebrating the 90th birthday of Mwai Kibaki, praised him as the best president we've had. And in agreeing with him, I think he's making a statement about the difference between that government and this government.
Rated from 1 to 10, where would you place it?
I don't think you can just rate the government that way. There are so many different things.
Of course,
the ability
economically.
Of government to speak,
let's rate it economically.
Wait.
Yes.
The ability of government to speak with one voice, 1 to 10, I rate it at 10. Even if there's something less than 1, I could have put it there. When the president and the deputy president are the two extreme opposites in public discourse, that is how government should never be. On sustaining a certain level of international credibility, I think President Uhuru has done very well. He's received very, very good accolades in certain important circles of the donor community.
Yes.
He is playing a significant role in the collective efforts to stabilize the situation in Ethiopia.
Yes.
He has played an important role in Kenya's costly exercise to help stabilize things in Somalia. He's broadly been a positive force in regional and international relations. I'll give him that.
All right.
The level of the de-link between investment in infrastructure and growing the economy is a very, very weak point in the government. But I think the weakest point, apart from the Gorolas relationship, is the massive expansion of public debt.
How would you treat your deputy if you come into power? When they go, south and you headed south, how would you treat your deputy?
I don't know.
And especially because you were elected together.
Yeah, some of these questions are difficult to deal with in abstract terms. I just hope that if I'm president, I don't end up with a deputy president like Ruto. it makes complicates things very, very significantly. Yeah, but I hope that on
But he's the man who supported him for many years, and actually even in elections.
So what? He may have supported him, but as president, I would not allow my deputy the opportunity to amass the kind of wealth that Ruto has amassed while they have been in government.
Thank you so very much, Mheshimiwa. Nashukuru sana. Thank you for your time. I appreciate.
My pleasure.
That's all we had for tonight. All right. My guest, Mukhisa Kituyi, there, speaking to Switch TV on various issues, is about to be your president if you elect him.